Hi everyone. Today I thought I would do a quick tutorial video on hardwood cuttings. Now this is something I've covered a load of times on the grid before. It's probably something you are all familiar with and already know a step-by-step process. But I was out in the garden, I was tidying up, I came across this Buddleia shrub, and to be honest the growth on it was quite suitable for taking cuttings from, and I thought, you know what, I'll just cover it again. Hardwood cuttings is something you can do from about start of November right through until first 2 weeks of March or so, and that's kind of your cut-off time frame ideally. And you can do it in loads of things. Buddleia, obviously, which I'm going to cover. Cornus, which is your dogwoods. Philadelphus is also a great one to take hardwood cuttings from. You can also take hardwood cuttings from some evergreens like holly and skimmia as well. But to be honest, usually when we associate hardwood cuttings, we think of deciduous shrubs. Hydrangea paniculatus as well, it's another good one. So I have selected some growth from the parent plant. So it's very tall and it's got lovely straight stems, some foliage at the top. And what I would say is, don't panic if your Buddleia doesn't have leaves on it. Buddleia is one of those shrubs where sometimes there'll be leaf growth the whole way through the winter, sometimes there's not. They are deciduous, but in some climates or some situations, they will just retain the leaf anyhow. You don't have to go for the straightest growth, but it is probably more beneficial if you're trying to be more space efficient in a pot that you have quite slender, straight stems. So you take your growth and you make your first cut point. So I have identified that there's a node here, which the camera might not pick up, but it's kind of like that line indentation on the stem. So that's kind of what's called the node. So you go and you snip, and we'll set this bit away for now. So that still leaves us quite a big chunk of stem. So I cut there where I identified the node. I come a wee bit further up and I can see there's another line there. That's a node. And then further up there's kind of like this dot. That's a node. The space in between both nodes, so here is what's classed as the internode. And ideally you don't really want to cut there. So where nodes are located is where the shrub probably has the best chance of rooting from. So by cutting there at a nice straight angle, I know that that's a really good location to take the cut from. And you can make the cutting, I suppose, as long as you want. I sort of count 3 up, so about here. And then I do a slanted cut, so a 45-degree angle, essentially. So we have a slanted end and a straight end at the bottom. So thickness of this growth is probably the width of a pencil. I go and identify the base of the cutting again, so at the bottom, and I just do a sort of a slice like that. You don't have to do this, but I just feel it exposes a wee bit of the stem. And again, we've identified this is the top. And the reason we cut at a slant is you can cut it straight, but first of all, if you set them all down and you're doing loads of these in batches, at least you always know when you go to plant them, which is up, which is down. So we know that's the top. Nice clean cut. Also allows for moisture runoff, so the water's not sitting on the top of the cutting, so the cutting doesn't rot. Now, if you were to cut in the middle, even at a slant, what would happen is this top part here would start to rot the whole way down to the next node, and potentially you've lost the whole cutting by doing that. So ideally you always cut at the top of another node, and that sort of just means that you're not, if anything's going to rot, it'll just be this tiny wee triangle here that's left. You're not having a lot of rot the whole way down the cutting. So that's potentially a really good cutting. Now at this point I would obviously put them in a pot, but I haven't prepared this very well. So I just have this bucket of water here, which I can set straight into, and then I'll do some more and complete the process. Hardwood cuttings, because we're in winter, you don't need to be as fussy as if it was softwood cuttings or semi-hardwood cuttings, which ideally you need to take like really early in the morning, and you would be taking those like in the months of May right through into the summertime, depending on if it's softwood or semi-hardwood. Hardwood cuttings, because we're in winter, the plant's in a dormant phase. Yes, I probably don't need this bucket of water right now. The cutting probably would be fine to sit there for maybe an hour or two until I get around to potting them up. Ideally, you want to plant them as quick as you can, regardless of what cutting you're doing, even if it is a hardwood cutting, just so it has the best chance of success. But in the meantime, until I get a pot of free draining substrate made up, this tub of water is fine. So I go back to the same piece of growth I've already taken from. Because I've already cut at a slant there, that node is now sort of incomplete. So I follow it up to my next one. So, and this is where I start a brand new cutting. So again, I've identified a new node and I'm cutting underneath it, like so. So this is waste, we don't need this bit. This is the bottom now of my next cutting. And I follow it up, so there's one node, and I follow it up again. And here's a better example. There's a double set of leaves, so that's how you know that that's a node as well. And I will cut again at a 45 angle. And there. And I don't want this branch, so that comes off, and that comes off. So again, all this thinner stuff with flower ends, and it's quite bendy. We don't want that, that's not suitable. But this here piece that I've just taken this cutting off, very rigid. I can't bend that. I have to put real pressure in that if I want to bend it, and then it'll snap. So that's how you're identifying hardwood and incorrect growth there. That's too brittle, it's too soft, so we're not after that. I could tidy this up further. Do I need those leaves? Not essentially. So, snip those leaves off. You can keep them on if you want. You might find they'll just rot off anyway. And again, repeat the process. I nick at the bottom, not essential, set into my water. Now, before I put this into a tub of earth, some people would say dip it in rooting hormone. To be honest, I've had mixed rates of success with cuttings with and without hormone. I don't necessarily feel it's the most beneficial thing to make your cutting successful. If you want to use it, that's fine. I do think rooting hormone is, don't quote me on this, is possibly more aimed at your softwood and semi-hardwood cuttings that you're taking mid-growth in the season when the weather's warmer. You need to be doing that really early in the morning, and I think that's just giving you every chance of success. Because hardwood cuttings, you're doing them when they're dormant, the plant's not sort of in an active growth state yet, there's probably no need really to stimulate it, because these cuttings will sit in your container of earth probably for a couple of months before you see new leaves on them. Now, I'll not be tipping these out until the following, well, sorry, at least this November coming, if not the following spring. So these will probably sit in a container for a year before I tip them out to repot them on. So even if you see signs of growth in the middle of summer, don't think, okay, wow, you know, I've put 12 cuttings in that pot and all 12 are successful. Leave it. Because the moment you tip that out, you potentially can lose your cutting because you've disturbed it in a period of growth. So just wait until the plant's dormant again. So I'll not be taking these out of their pot until at least this incoming autumn, when I know they're dormant, if not the following spring. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll batch bulk these all now, and then I'll show you what it looks like when they're finished. So I'll catch you in a wee second. So this is a complete batch of different cuttings that I did a couple of weeks ago. There's 2 containers of roses there. There's Vitis, it's a type of grapevine, Hydrangea paniculata, some Cornus, and yeah, so that's all the different cuttings I have there. And as you can see, I've located them all around the sides of the pot. None of them, exception to the middle ones, are actually plunked in the middle. So ideally when you're doing your cuttings, you want to put them around the edge of the pot, and preferably a clay pot if you have it. Now for these hardwood cuttings, they're not as fussy, so I have them in plastic pots. And you can see I've just mulched the top there with a layer of grit. That just keeps the weeds out, it retains moisture in the cuttings whenever I'm at work or I'm not here to water them. And they're just out here in the open, they're not within the confinements of the tunnel, there's no need to keep them warm. These types of cuttings benefit from a cold snap. So even if there's a wee bit of frost in March or April or even early May, they'll be out here, they'll be fine, they're undisturbed. And you can even see the roses. I done these roses back in December. They're already starting to put new leaves on the cutting, but I'm not touching those until I know they're dormant again. So I'll not be touching those until this autumn. So yeah, hopefully that was beneficial. As always, thank you for supporting this channel. And if you want videos on anything else or me to cover, let me know down below. Cheers.